What's up, this is Rocket, and this is the official PokeMMO Mewtwo guide. I spent nearly 2,000 hours in the Kanto region, and in that time, I've had several brushes with the legendary Pokemon Mewtwo. I've caught it twice myself, seen other players catch it, and I've even seen teams farming Mewtwo for tens of thousands of BP. I looked around and the current information online about Mewtwo is very sparse, and there's no guide on how to efficiently farm this legendary for BP. This guide will cover every last detail regarding Mewtwo. I'll be covering how to catch Mewtwo, how battling with Mewtwo works, and even how to farm Mewtwo for BP efficiently. This guide has details on Mewtwo that has never been shared online, so if you want to learn everything about how this legendary Pokemon works in PokeMMO, this is the guide for you. I've organized this video into 3 sections: catching Mewtwo, battling with Mewtwo, and farming Mewtwo for BP. Okay, without further ado, let's get into how to catch Mewtwo. Mewtwo can be found in Cerulean Cave. In order to unlock Cerulean Cave, you have to complete the additional Sevi Island missions after the Kanto storyline. I've linked a forum post covering how to complete these missions in the description of the video. Once you unlock Cerulean Cave, you can access it by traveling down the water to the left of the Gold Nugget Bridge. Cerulean Cave has 3 floors, but you can only find Mewtwo in the bottom floor. It may be possible to encounter Mewtwo on the upper floors, but I personally have only encountered it on the bottom floor, and every video I've ever seen of someone catching it is on the bottom floor. So if you're going to hunt it, I suggest doing it on the bottom floor. On screen now is the route you take to get to the bottom floor of the cave. Mewtwo's encounter rate has never been publicly shared, but it's believed to have an encounter rate similar to the roaming legendaries, so roughly 1 to 8k or 1 to 10k. You used to be able to repel trick Mewtwo, but I've heard from reputable sources that you can no longer do so. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty confident repel tricking no longer works. It's also important to point out that there's a 12-hour buffer after Mewtwo is caught and released, regardless if you were the person who caught it. This means you have to wait 12 hours after Mewtwo is released back into the wild to be able to encounter it again. The most efficient way to encounter Mewtwo is to lead with Swarm, Arena Trap, or Illuminate for a 10% encounter boost. You're also going to want to use regular lures for an additional 10% encounter rate. If you're a rich bitch, you can use premium lures for an additional 20% encounter rate, but they're likely not worth the investment. I did want to note that legendary lures technically give an additional 15% encounter rate, but the 30% legendary boost doesn't apply to Mewtwo as it's not a roaming legendary. You cannot encounter Mewtwo on the water on the bottom floor, so you're going to have to bike along the cave floor. I recommend smashing this rock so you have a long streak to encounter up and down. Once you finally encounter Mewtwo, you'll be notified right as the battle starts that you have 10 minutes to catch it. Failure to catch it in that time frame results in Mewtwo running away. Mewtwo can either have the ability Unnerve or Pressure when you encounter it. If you'd like to, you can use a Smeargle to sketch Mewtwo's signature move, Side Strike, before catching it. Surprisingly, Mewtwo has a very high catch rate, if not 100%. I've never personally seen a ball break when catching Mewtwo, but to be fair, I've only ever seen people throw Ultra Balls and Quick Balls. I recommend throwing a Quick Ball on the first turn. I've personally caught Mewtwo twice doing exactly that with a 100% success rate. Catching Mewtwo rewards roughly 4,300 XP. If you catch Mewtwo with a full party, Mewtwo will replace the last member of your party and send that party member to your PC. If your party isn't full, Mewtwo will simply take up the next free spot. Once you catch Mewtwo, a system message will broadcast to every person online saying that you caught Mewtwo, where you caught it, and which channel you're in. Mewtwo is a King of the Hill legendary, meaning any player can challenge you to a PvP battle when you have Mewtwo, and you can't turn these battles down. If you lose the PvP battle, your challenger will steal Mewtwo from you, and you'll be sent to your most recent Poke Center. To make matters even worse, when you have Mewtwo, you can't use your bike, and the only HM you can use is Surf. Therefore, it's very important you avoid all players when you catch Mewtwo to avoid losing it. That's every last detail about catching Mewtwo. Let's get into battling with Mewtwo. When you have Mewtwo and someone challenges you to a battle, a 3v3 battle is initiated. Items cannot be used in these battles, and you cannot forfeit these battles until round 3. Additionally, you have the option to switch your left and right Pokemon to the center of the 3v3 battle, kinda like an ally switch. If you have Mewtwo and you defeat your challenger, you will sustain the damage, effects, and feints from that battle. Meaning if someone new challenges you, you have to fight with the damage, effects, and feints from your previous battle. This system is designed so the player who has Mewtwo can slowly be withered down by opponents. Every battle you win against an opponent when you have Mewtwo rewards 1000 BP, and this caps out at 4000 BP. When you initially catch Mewtwo, and when you steal Mewtwo from another player, you don't get BP. Only when you already have Mewtwo and you win battles against opponents do you get BP. On the note of stealing Mewtwo, if you steal Mewtwo with a full party, the same thing as having a full party when you catch Mewtwo happens. The last Pokemon in your party is replaced with Mewtwo. Additionally, if you steal Mewtwo from another player, your party is fully healed. If someone is battling with Mewtwo, a Master Ball will be rotating above their head. Also, if anyone is spectating the Mewtwo battle, a Premier Ball will be rotating above their head. If you want to challenge somebody with Mewtwo, you just have to right-click their character, click their name, and hit challenge. If you want to spectate somebody in a Mewtwo battle, you just have to right-click their character, click their name, and hit spectate. That's every last detail about battling with Mewtwo. Now let's move on to the most interesting aspect of all of this: farming Mewtwo for BP. As I had previously mentioned, you get 1000 BP for every opponent you defeat when you have Mewtwo, and this caps out at 4000 BP. Usually teams make a coordinated effort to catch Mewtwo so they can all receive 4000 BP from Mewtwo on all of their accounts. Once they acquire Mewtwo, they typically take it to a secluded cave, house, or Poke Center where they can safely farm BP in peace. There's two reasons for hiding out in places like these. The obvious reason is you don't want other players interfering. The other reason is every time Mewtwo is stolen from one player to another, a system message is broadcasted to players within the same area, inside the same house, or in the same cave saying so-and-so stole Mewtwo from so-and-so. If your team was hiding out in your mom's house, only players in your mom's house would be able to see those broadcasts. If your team was hiding out in Mount Moon, only players in Mount Moon would be able to see those broadcasts. And similarly, if Mewtwo is stolen in Cerulean City, everybody in Cerulean City would see those broadcasts. Discretion is key when farming Mewtwo, so typically teams will hide out in obscure houses you never go in. There are two strategies to farming Mewtwo: the disconnect strategy and the low-level strategy. The elite of the lead to the disconnect strategy. Essentially, teammates will challenge each other to a Mewtwo battle, and the player who is challenging the player with Mewtwo will disconnect after the battle starts by closing their game. Doing this instantly rewards the current Mewtwo owner with the 1k BP they get from defeating an opponent in a Mewtwo battle. They would do this 4 times, and when the 4k BP cap is met, the player with Mewtwo will intentionally lose or log out. Then they just repeat the cycle until everybody has gotten their 4k BP. It's important to note that at any point, if the owner of Mewtwo logs out, Mewtwo will appear in the overworld like an alpha on every channel. The first player to interact with Mewtwo is then given Mewtwo in their channel, and a system announcement is made saying so-and-so has Mewtwo, their channel, and their whereabouts. This is a strategy that teams will use to steal Mewtwo from a crowd of people. They'll have the current owner of Mewtwo log out and have another player in a different channel spamming interact so they can steal Mewtwo in their own channel without the crowd noticing. If I'm being honest, I'm not 100% sure if players who do the disconnect method prefer to intentionally lose or log out to pass Mewtwo to another player. The only experience I have with a player logging out with Mewtwo was the other day, and I was given a system message saying a new player acquired Mewtwo, which channel they were on, and where they were. However, I was in the same area as the person who freshly acquired Mewtwo, so I'm not sure if I got that system message because I was in the same area, or if it's because they broadcasted to the entire game when a new player acquired Mewtwo via the logout method. If anybody's able to test this, please let me know in the comments, as I'm interested on how the game handles this situation. Regardless, to play it safe, let's just say when doing the disconnect strategy, the person passing Mewtwo to another player just intentionally loses. In that case, the message saying so-and-so lost to so-and-so is only broadcasted within the same area, house, or cave that they're in. And that's the disconnect strategy. Start battle, opponent disconnects round 1, you get 1k BP, repeat until 4k BP, and then trade Mewtwo to a teammate by intentionally losing or logging out. The low-level strategy is similar to the disconnect strategy, but instead of the opponent disconnecting, they just intentionally go into the battle with one low-level Pokemon. This allows the player of Mewtwo to easily defeat their opponent and be rewarded the 1k BP. When the player of Mewtwo wants to pass it to a new player, they just intentionally lose to their opponent. The elite of the lead to the disconnect strategy because it's faster and more efficient. Regardless of which method you use to farm the BP, you can technically farm Mewtwo forever. Each player can only farm 4k BP off Mewtwo, but you can do this with as many players as you'd like. There is no cap to the amount of BP that can be farmed, nor is there a time limit. Mewtwo is only released back to the wild when the current owner doesn't move for 5 minutes. Once Mewtwo has been released to the wild, a system message will broadcast to all players saying Mewtwo grew tired of its owner and was released to the wild. Then the 12-hour timer starts, and once those 12 hours is up, Mewtwo can be encountered again. This last little tidbit of information is purely speculation, but remember how I said if the player who currently has Mewtwo logs out, Mewtwo will appear in the overworld like an alpha in all channels. I'm assuming that if Mewtwo is left like that for 5 minutes, it will then be released to the wild, but like I said, that's purely speculation. One last speculation, I'd like to believe that shiny Mewtwo is possible to encounter, as you can get shiny roaming legendaries, and during the April Fool's event, they had given everybody a Shalpa Mewtwo as a follower sprite as a joke, but this hasn't ever been confirmed. It's clearly in the game code, but I can't confirm if it's possible to encounter a shiny Mewtwo. With that being said, it's hard for me to confirm a lot of the information like this, as I've only personally captured Mewtwo twice, and the teams who mainly farm Mewtwo are Spanish-speaking teams, so it's difficult to find out who to ask. I haven't found an English-speaking team that actively farms Mewtwo for BP, which is why I think I had a hard time finding information on Mewtwo online. But yeah, that's every last detail you need to know about Mewtwo to catch it, battle with it, and farm it for BP. I'm confident that this information is accurate, but if I got any aspect of this wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. It took me several months to compile all of this information, and there aren't many reputable sources to verify if what I'm saying is correct, so I could totally see me misconstruing a thing or two. Anyways, thanks for watching the guide. If you found any of the information helpful, please consider leaving a like. This has been Rocket, smell you later.